Welcome into A to Z Sports Prime Time here on this Wednesday, September the 11th. We're happy to have you guys in for another episode of the Prime Time program. We are going to dive into Will Levis, his strengths and his weaknesses, because, of course, the latter was on display primarily against the Chicago Bears, but he does have some qualities, some good plays from that Bears game. I know the good plays are harder to look at or easier to gloss over when the bad plays or bad plays specifically is so glaring and obvious, but we're going to take a look at both tonight. We're happy to have you guys in here for another episode of the Primetime program. B. French getting us started, says Sam is like Will Levis for A to Z. He has talent, he looks the part, and then he dances too much in the pocket, and eventually we're all wondering if he's the guy. That's cruel. That's not very nice. I thought Sam did a fine job last night. And either way, like your quarterback, Sam is going to have to get better because Sam is going to do every Tuesday for me moving forward, because as a part of my renewal with A to Z, I wanted a night off, and I'm going to take Tuesday nights off. And Sam is Austin and Zach were kind enough to give me that because, I feel like you guys, we understand each other at this point in our life cycles. We understand that I am talking in a lot of different places, and a night off could benefit. Absence makes the heart grow fonder. So you're still going to get me for 4 nights of the week, but on Tuesdays, which is the off day. Tuesdays is the players' day off. The only thing that I'm going to do work-wise is radio on Tuesdays, and 3 hours and be done with it, because I'm not tired. But I am, I'm trying to pick my spots and give you guys the best possible show on a regular basis. So as a part of the re-up, Sam is going to do Tuesday nights. That's why they hired a third Titans reporter, so that we would have the flexibility to do that. So I'm appreciative to A to Z and to Sam for making all those things possible. Bork says Sam was being too kind to us last night. It was weird. Well, don't you worry. Because a night off is only going to make me feistier 4 days a week. And now for Wednesday and Thursday, you're stuck with me for the foreseeable future. But we're happy to have you guys. I'm happy to be back, and this will be the cycle throughout the course of the season. And then when we get into the off season, Sam will do Sundays, and I will have you Monday through Thursday. So these are the new outlines for the Primetime program, and we are going to talk quarterbacks tonight in particular. BG Green gets us started. He says Levis has proven nothing. It pains me to say that. Well, in fact, he has proven that it's going to be hard to trust him. And I think that's not exactly the thing that you were looking for him to prove to you, right? You were looking for him to prove that he could be the starting quarterback of the Titans without question. And that's not going to be the case. He is going to have questions. In fact, there are more questions coming out of his week 1 debut, or week 1 starting debut, this undisputed Titans starting quarterback heading into 2024. He dug his hole deeper. And so now the process becomes, all right, 16 more opportunities to dig yourself out. So we're going to work through these things together. You're going to hear from Will Levis. You're also going to hear from Greg Cosell in the throughout the course of the show. Need you guys to share the broadcast on Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, and on Twitch in the comment section. We always appreciate when you guys show up. We also appreciate when you share the broadcast around. If you're hanging out on Twitter, please retweet it in the bottom right-hand corner of your screen. If you're on Facebook Live, you can share. You can share now to public. That's in the bottom left. And if you're on YouTube or Twitch, please like the video, subscribe to the channel while you're there, and we will appreciate your participation as always. Amar says if he goes 0-4, he will be benched for Rudolph. Well, I don't know that to be so. And I think it's entirely possible that you struggle in this first month of the season. Hell, guys, they could lose to the Jets on Sunday, and you still find a way to feel better about your quarterback situation, because that's what this year really is about. You're not winning a Super Bowl this year. You're not competing for a Super Bowl this year. I hate to be the one to break it to you, but them's the breaks. As Boris Johnson, the former disgraced Prime Minister of the United Kingdom, once said on his way out the door, them's the breaks. So in the absence of the Super Bowl contention, what are you doing this season? Well, you can still make the playoffs, and you can do what the Steelers did last year, right? Which is make the postseason, feel good about what you were able to accomplish. And also, in doing so, you can find out whether or not this quarterback is going to be your future at this point. So We will dive into weaknesses. We will also talk about strengths. Let's go ahead and get it going. Welcome into A to Z Sports Prime Time from the Zen Sports Studios. I'm your host, Buck Rising. I'm proud, as always, to be presented to you by the wonderful people at Two Rivers Ford, the South's most trusted Ford dealer. Two Rivers Ford in Mount Juliet or online at tworiversford.com. By TrueMav Fitness, where your first workout is free as a Middle Tennessee resident. No workout ever recycled or repeated. Just the best in the business at TrueMavFitness.com. And Zen Sports. Download the app, plug in the promo code ATOZTN. Get up to $100 on your no danger first wager at Zen Sports. I am also going to ask you guys to bear with me because on my first day off in God knows how long, I appear to have come down with a bit of a throat, head, nose congestion type of situation. That's probably from me being at the airport all weekend in Chicago, flying to the Bears game and then flying home. So we're going to work our way through it tonight. I appreciate you guys tolerating me and my lemon water and my tea. So with everything that's going on with Will Levis and with the Titans, the Jets coming to town means you flushing the result was a big theme of Titans practice today. We flushed the Bears game. We're not thinking about the Bears game. We took our time to identify the mistakes in the Monday meetings, in the Monday film session, but now we're on to the Jets, which, by the way, is exactly how it needs to be. You have to have a short memory with this stuff. Your season is not over in week one. The Jets look beatable. They're a better football team than you are right now. A better football team. Doesn't mean they're more talented, but they are a better football team right now than you are because the quarterback is the biggest reason. There's, you can make an argument for the Titans defense. Jets defense certainly didn't look good on Monday Night Football. 8 straight scoring drives is what they allowed. Fair to expect. That will not be the case at Nissan Stadium on Sunday. And in fact, the weather is pretty bad at this point, or forecasted to be pretty bad at this point, which would not necessarily lend itself to redemption for either quarterback in this situation. Because while Rodgers looked better than Levis, I mean, much better than Levis, there were some great throws that he made in San Francisco on Monday. He's still working off some mental and physical rust as well, coming back off a year that he just didn't play football because of the Achilles injury. So, strengths and weaknesses for Will Levis. This is the place that we're going to start. Your Two Rivers Ford take on Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, and on Twitch. In the comments section, what is Will Levis's greatest weakness, as you can identify it, not just based on Sunday's result, but on the whole, as you've watched now 10 starts of Will Levis. And as a matter of fact, I'm working on a project right now. It's a bit of a suffering, I'll be honest with you, but it's a labor of love because I'm trying to do this for you guys as I evaluate Josh Allen's first 10 starts. I went back on NFL Game Pass or whatever it's called, NFL Plus now, and watched the first 10 starts of Josh Allen, the quarterback that Levis is most frequently compared to. And let me tell you, it is rough to go back and watch that version of Josh Allen. And I bet most of you don't even remember that Josh Allen was not the starting quarterback to begin his rookie season. He lost the job in training camp to a guy who, it's funny to think about now, but you would never in 10,000 years imagine a situation where the Bills would make that choice again. But that's not what we're doing tonight. We're talking about Will Levis's strengths and weaknesses, but first we're focusing on the weaknesses. What is the biggest weakness that Will Levis has as a starting quarterback? Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, and on Twitch. We'll talk about it together right after I remind you that the Two Rivers Ford Take is presented by the South's most trusted Ford dealer. We're talking about your favorite teams. The best team in Middle Tennessee is Two Rivers Ford. Now, the best team in East Tennessee might be the Tennessee Vols, but the best team in Middle Tennessee is not the Titans right now. It's Two Rivers Ford, the South's most trusted Ford dealer. They always go above and beyond when it comes to quality American-made Ford vehicles and award-winning customer service. Two Rivers Ford is the standard. They are one of the biggest and best Ford dealers by volume in the country, which may make you think that they're corporate, but they're not. They're locally owned and operated for over 4 decades here in Middle Tennessee. Two Rivers Ford in Mount Juliet or online at tworiversford.com. Okay. So Eric Alonzo says, was it Tyrod Taylor? No, worse than that. You'll never guess. You'll never guess in 1,000 years unless you look it up and cheat. And I hope that none of you do that. But you'll never guess who Josh Allen lost that starting quarterback job to his rookie year in a debut against Robert Walsh's Ravens that I wish that I could erase from my memory because I spent way too much time watching how it was that Josh Allen became the starting quarterback of the Buffalo Bills last night in particular, and then watched 5 more of his starts today en route to putting together the first 10 starts of Josh Allen's career versus the first 10 starts of Will Levis's career. And there are some similarities, as a matter of fact. So, with everything that you want or everything that you've got right now, what is Will Levis's greatest weakness? There's a couple of things that you can pinpoint, and it just depends on how you prioritize these things. His accuracy is not an overwhelming strength yet. Is it his greatest weakness? No, I would not say Will Levis's greatest weakness is his accuracy, but it is in question, and there are a couple of examples of that from Sunday's loss to the Bears, specifically the go route with Calvin Ridley, where he just misses what would have been a 24-3 touchdown, the nail in the coffin of what would have been the Chicago Bears in week 1. So he does have accuracy concerns, but I don't think that those are his biggest issues or his biggest issue, full stop. Then there's the idea of his comfort level in the offense, because that is not something that I witnessed. He was not comfortable on Sunday. He was not comfortable with what was around him. He was not comfortable in the offense. You could tell that he was playing too fast, and you'll hear Greg Cosell articulate that here in just a second. But it's also something that defenders have noticed, because it boils down to his decision making. Will Levis's decision making right now is his greatest identifiable weakness, not just because it is a weakness, and to have decision making as a weakness for a quarterback, obviously not ideal, but it's because in a couple of different moments, it has been costly. It's not just the pick six to Tyreek Stevenson on Sunday. It's doing things like throwing an interception, a pick six, to a defensive lineman in Miami, then deciding that you're going to be the one to stop the 300-pound defensive lineman, lowering your shoulder and getting blasted as the defensive lineman crosses the goal line to score the pick six anyway, because you're not going to be able to stop him, Will Levis. What are you doing? Decision-making is not just about how he operates the offense, right? It's how he puts himself in harm's way. It's how things devolved as a decision maker throughout the course of that first half to the second half, because it got frenetically worse throughout the course of the game. And when it gets worse, when you can see him start to, I'm not going to say spiral, I don't think he outright spiraled, but he did unravel noticeably. That is something that the Jets defenders have also picked up on as well.
What are your impressions of Will Levis?
He's a talented athlete, and can throw the ball pretty well. But just watching film and just understanding some things about him, especially when he comes out, he's one of those guys that kind of, when things aren't going his way, he kind of can panic a little early, and just understanding how we can get him to that point as a defense, and kind of how we can capitalize off of that. So just understanding how we're going to go throughout the week, understanding that what we can do on defense to make sure that we win this game.
So his panic, he panics, which is something that you can identify. Now, this was a part of the evaluation on him coming out of college, right? He's very tightly wound. And that was something that he spoke to today, as a matter of fact, with us on the podium. And I don't have the exact quote in front of me, but it was something to the effect of like, yeah, in years past, this is a loss that I would have dwelled on. This is something that would have sat with me for a considerable amount of time. It would have stewed. And that's not a way that you can exist as a quarterback, no matter how bad it was, because it was bad. He has done a couple of different things to improve the way that he processes, but in a different sense, not just processes, not just isolating and eliminating, right, as he progresses through his reads or things like that, but how he processes mentally overall for his well-being and for his ability to turn the page. He has had to seek help in this area. Now, I know a lot of people remember when Tannehill, after the Bengals loss, he went and sought therapy. He felt that he was so torn down by having that result primarily on him with the 3 interceptions that he threw in that game, that he had to go talk to somebody about that. That can be legitimately jarring. And as much as we talk about the physical performance of athletes, the mental stuff is as important. Of course, you have to have physical traits to succeed at the highest levels. But if you're not right in the head, and I mean that in terms of like, if you're not continuing to practice compartmentalization and focus and, putting behind you bad results and focusing only on what's in front of you, because that's a real thing. And, that could be applied to any discipline, whether it's football, whether it's, broadcast, whether it's, accounting, whatever you might be in your professional life. we all have moments where it's better for us to, okay, the past is the past. It's not beneficial. It's not helpful to dwell on it. You understand that you make mistakes, but you learn from them and you go about trying to find as many ways to not make the same mistakes as humanly possible whenever you get the opportunity to next make those decisions, right? So Will Levis has had some coaching on the mental side of things to make sure that he doesn't dwell and stew on this the way that, a lot of us can, and understandably so. You have a week, right? That's the toughest part about football. It's not like hockey or basketball or baseball where you've got multiple opportunities to right your wrongs throughout the course of a week. You get one chance on Sundays or Mondays or Thursdays. In the case of the Eagles and the Packers on Fridays, you get one chance to do this, and then you have to sit with it for a week until the next week that you get the opportunity to try and go out there and do the same or do better. So with all of that, Levis has talked quite a bit about that, but it is something that continues to plague him. And I thought Belichick was good on this on the Pat McAfee show. He said, what's the best possible thing that can happen on that play that Will Levis made? That it goes incomplete, that it goes out of bounds. You're in 4th and 10, you punt, and you go about trying to win the game. What's the worst possible thing that can happen? Exactly what happened. And that's the kind of cost-benefit analysis that Levis has to get better at in his head in real time. And it has to become more natural. He can over-process, right? It's like the game, the Niners game, the preseason game, where he's thinking about jumping into the end zone to try and score the touchdown on 3rd down, but he's hesitating in his head. So he goes down awkwardly, tries to slide, then he gets smoked by a defender, by a safety coming screaming in to hit him. So not only does he get the hit from the defender, but he also hits the turf as the defender hits him. And that's the kind of stuff that you can see him processing in real time. But when you talk about professional athletes, thinking too much can absolutely be detrimental because you have to be natural. You have to be instinctual with this. And that's the place that they're trying to get him at this point. So that is the biggest weakness because it causes that panic. And you saw that panic start to unravel him as the game progressed on Sunday afternoon in Chicago. A to Z Sports Primetime is presented by Zen Sports. Download the app, plug in the promo code ATOZTN, get up to $100 on your no danger first wager. Terms and conditions do apply. Gambling problem? Call the Tennessee Red Line, 1-800-889-9789. Must be 21 plus and in the state of Tennessee to bet at Zen Sports. So the biggest weakness for Will Levis is the decision-making and everything that results because of the decision-making. Bork says, don't ignore our brilliant solutions. I'll be honest with you, I haven't had the chat up at all. As you guys have been commenting, but now I am looking at the chat, so I will see what brilliant solutions you have brought. I see a lot of things talking about last night's debate, which I'm not interested in getting into. William Wallace said today, William Wallace says on YouTube, Buck Lucas was right on the show today regarding big loss versus small loss. Don't blow this thing out of proportion like you did with the Cleveland game. Well, I don't remember exactly the dialogue around the Cleveland game. But the Cleveland game was a disaster. You went out there and got your ass kicked. It was embarrassing. It was a clear and obvious sign in week 3 that that team, last year's team, was going absolutely nowhere, which is probably about what I said. So that was not blown out of proportion. The team went nowhere, and that was an accurate assessment. Now, blowing things out of proportion, if you're talking about the conversation that Lucas and I were having today, the conversation was more about, as a fan, what would you want to see? What would you rather see your team do? Would you rather see your team lose a close game where there's a couple of correctable mistakes, or would you rather see your team get its ass kicked, just get blown out of the water, doors blown off right away? And my perspective is, from the perspective when I watch my team as a fan, my team is the Indiana Hoosiers, right? It's the only team that I care about as a fan, actually. My basketball team. When I watch my basketball team, I don't want to waste my afternoon if I know that they're not a good enough team to win. I have seen plenty of IU basketball teams be bad enough to not be competitive in the Big Ten, for example. I'm sure Vols fans can relate. You've seen plenty of Vols teams in not this current era, but in the last 15 to 20 years of Tennessee football that you knew weren't going anywhere. And you suffered along with them anyway because there's some heartbreaking losses. So in a one-game sample size, what would I rather do if I know the team is going to come up short? Then I'd rather them just get boat raced and move on with my afternoon and turn it off. Like, I don't want to watch that. I don't want to waste my time on that. So obviously this is different because I'm talking about a game that I covered as a reporter and I'm going to be there the entire time anyway. I can't speak to it as a Titans fan because I'm not a Titans fan. But if I had an NFL team and I didn't want to waste time on them if I'm sitting here watching at home and I know that they're going to come up short in a big spot, or I think that they're, if I think that they're not prepared for the moment or whatever, and you start to see the signs clearly, obviously I'd rather them be what happened to the Bills in that game I was talking about with the Ravens, where they're down 40-0 in the third quarter, and I can move on with my day and not have to worry about it and just worry about the next week. I understand that I process those things differently. Clearly process them different than Lucas, but I'm not looking as one game to the next as a continuous strain of thought, because oftentimes they're not, especially in football. A lot of times they're just one game individual sample sizes. Like what happens against the Bears may have no bearing on how this team plays against the Jets. Some of the stuff will, right? You're identifying things on tape. You're taking stuff out of the playbook that didn't work against the Bears. You're putting stuff into the playbook that you think might work better against the Jets in any given week. So I understand why there was pushback. I understand Lucas's perspective, but he wasn't going to tell me how I process things as a fan, because I know how I process things as a fan, and it's differently than he does. That's what it is. So with everything that's going on right now with the Titans, his biggest weakness is his decision making, and that's a problem. Right now, we have to figure out if he can make better decisions, and he's not going to be in an ideal situation on Sunday. Because one, the Jets are not going to give up 8 straight scoring drives to the Tennessee Titans. If the Titans score on 8 straight scoring drives, if the Titans score on 8 straight drives on Sunday, I'll give some of you what you want, and I'll quit my job. I hand to God, if the Titans on Sunday against the Jets score on 8 straight possessions against a Jets defense that looked completely opposite what the Jets normally look like on defense, then I will quit my job and you guys won't have to be bothered by me for the rest of time. William Jones says, Buck, you told us you were a Jets fan. Oh, that's right. That's right. Forget about that, did you? You didn't forget about that, did you? Somebody asked, I get the question a lot. I get the question a lot about what NFL team I'm a fan of. And the reality is that I'm not a fan of any NFL team. It's what allows me to do this job, I think, to the best of my abilities. But I did tell you guys that in second grade, we were living in New York City. In fact, we were living in New York on 9/11. We were living outside of Manhattan. We had lived in Manhattan for a period of time, but we had moved out to the suburbs. And it was wear a sports jersey to school day. I don't have any sports jerseys because my household, my single mom, definitely doesn't care about sports. From her perspective, she didn't have time for it. She didn't have me in sports. In fact, the first time that I was put into sports, it was something that I asked to do. I wanted to play football in 8th grade. And that was, I'm 6'2", I probably wasn't 200 pounds in 8th grade, but, I'm a big enough person. I felt like I could play 8th grade football. I maybe wasn't 6'2" in 8th grade, but I'm pretty close. So I wanted to play football in 8th grade. But until then, my mom had zero interest in me participating in sports. She doesn't see the value in it. Although I think she has grown to it now so that she understands what it is that I do for a living with a little more context. So long story short, I said that I needed a jersey to go to school that day because I wasn't going to be the only second grader without a jersey on. That's not that wasn't going to be the only one. So you're living in New York. What do you get? You had a John Abraham Jets jersey. It's the only jersey that I've ever owned. The only NFL jersey that I've ever. Actually, I don't think that I've ever owned another jersey, regardless of what sport it is. But it's the only NFL jersey I've ever owned. So yes, if you wanted to pin anything on me, you might be able to pin a Jet. If you can find a picture of second grade me in a John Abraham Jets jersey from 2000, and I would have been in second grade in 2001. Then you are a better internet sleuth than the vast majority of people. So now this is the first week that you can actually accuse me of rooting against you guys, even though I've never actually paid attention to the Jets. It was just a Walmart buy that they sent me to school with. Anyway, so now with everything that's going on, Rishi says, Buck, if the Titans score on every drive, you have to wear a Titans jersey. No, I'd rather quit. I'd rather quit. That's not how that's going to be. Landon Fowler says it'll finally be the Lucas Panzika show. No, it's contractually obligated for the next 4 years that it has to be the Buck Rising show. So not only would I get a big old buyout, but Lucas would have to do the show for the next 4 years under my name, and that would bother him and you all more than anything, which would delight me. So I think that with everything that we're talking about, let's get back to Levis and the Jets. With everything that we're talking about, decision-making has to be better, and it's going to be hard because I'll pull up the forecast on the Weather Channel app right now. We're dealing with hurricane, the aftermath of the hurricane stuff that's coming in on the Gulf, And it sounds like between Thursday and Sunday, or Thursday and Monday, we are expected to get somewhere between 3 to 5 inches of rain. In fact, Hurricane Francine has made landfall, or is getting ready to make landfall in Louisiana, and we are going to feel the aftermath of that in some form or fashion on Sunday. So, going to be really, really difficult for Will Levis. Going to be difficult for quarterbacks to play well in conditions like that. And if you're going to Nissan Stadium, make sure you bring your poncho. I think that there is a lot of this stuff that's going to be hyper scrutinized. And the problem is, I hope that the weather isn't that bad, because I want to be able to evaluate. I want to be able to evaluate Will Levis. I want to be able to evaluate your offense. And when you have weather games like that, it's just not really possible. So from Levis's weakness to Levis's strengths, let's talk about what you think. What gives you the most confidence that Levis will be able to turn it around on Sunday against the Jets? We'll talk about it on Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, and on Twitch in the comment section. While you do that, I will remind you that the Primetime program is made possible by the Ashton Real Estate Group of RE/MAX Advantage. Don't sell without the intel edge that only Gary Ashton can provide. In fact, Gary's getting married this weekend. I saw he and his lovely fiance were flying over to Italy to get married. So congratulations to them. The best real estate agent in the business is GaryAshton.com. He got me in my dream address over 5 years ago. And I am a better person and a more financially, I have financially benefited in leaps and bounds, ways that I couldn't even imagine when I bought my house in 2008 or 2019. So shout out Gary Ashton. He'll do the same for you. Okay. So what gives you the confidence? And maybe you don't have confidence right now, and that's okay too. I think it's a little premature to make any kind of harsh or season-long indictments of Will Levis on a one-game sample size. But what gives you confidence that Levis can turn this around? William Wallace says his ownership. He can take a major L and bounce back by taking ownership and continuing to lead. Sure, that's absolutely relevant. That is a quality that a starting quarterback absolutely has to have. And to your point, William, you said all the right things on that front. But Mariota took ownership, and Mariota was an insufficient quarterback. Tannehill would take ownership when he would fall short, and he was a better quarterback, but he still was not good enough to get you to the place where you're trying to go. So that does matter, and it can be a factor, and it absolutely can help him. But ultimately, the decision making is the thing that it doesn't matter how many times he apologizes or take ownership if he continues to make the mistakes, right? Austin Hall says, I think he's a smart guy. He will learn from his mistakes, move on to make better decisions. It's possible, right? We will see. He will have the opportunity to do that. Like I said, I hope the conditions are favorable for him to show that. William Jones says, I hope they introduce the offense this Sunday. No, you saw your offense. Your offense put you up 17-3 at half against a really good defense. And then when the Bears took away the thing that you were doing well on offense, the rest of the offense shit the bed. That's the thing that you have to realize. Like, Brian Callahan called a good game. Brian Callahan called a winning game plan. The runs in the first half, you had 115 rushing yards in the first half against the league's best rushing defense from a year ago. The offensive line was moving the ball. For as bad as Peter Skoronski and J.C. Latham were in pass pro, they were not that bad against the run. Now, when the Bears adjusted, they were put into obvious passing situations, and they fell short. They weren't able to execute what Brian Callahan had called, whether it's the go ball to Calvin Ridley that Levis just missed on because he was uncomfortable, whether it's the other shot play, that deep in-breaking route to Ridley that Levis was pressured on. But again, execution, that's on the offensive line as much as it is, more than it is, honestly, on Levis on that particular play, where Calvin Ridley is going up and in on the right sideline with the defender. He has to slow down because Levis can't get enough on the ball. He's hit as the ball comes out. Even on the Chicago touchdown, right? You can see Levis getting slung to the ground by a defender as that ball goes up in the air. And honest to God, I thought I was going to get intercepted. It was just a great play by Chig. So your offense, you've seen it. If you don't like it, tough shit. Because your offense, he called 16 first down runs on Sunday against the Bears, and they were a lot more efficient than the 25 first down runs, or not 25 first down runs, but let's say 18 first down runs you might have called with Derrick Henry in your offense, because Derrick is plotting. Derrick, Derrick's coming, right? And it's easier to stop Derrick Henry than it is Tony Pollard, which is ironic to say at this point. Derrick is much harder to stop inside the 20, but not when you're working from your own 25 trying to get down the field, because Tony Pollard, Tajay Spears, the motion, the misdirection, all the different eye candy that's employed in this offense, it makes for a more efficient running game, especially when you display 3 wide receiver sets that spread the defense out anyway. So your running game is not the problem. Your first down runs are not the problem. I don't have a problem with first down runs as long as they're efficient. And they were efficient on Sunday until they adjusted, and then your passing game couldn't keep up. So that's what, you're talking about that whole spiel. Talking about the intros. I don't care about the intros. So with everything else, what are his strengths at this point? Well, Greg Cosell and I talked about it on today's episode of The Install, which is available to you on the Zone's YouTube page. You can also subscribe to the podcast. And Greg and I talked about the things that we saw from Will Levis and how much is correctable and how much, is kind of the book on him. The rest of it, right? We've talked about decision-making. We've talked about footwork. We've talked about accuracy with Will Levis. What did you make of the performance on the whole outside of the one glaring issue?
I thought that overall, I thought he needs to settle down a bit in the pocket. I thought in this particular game, he played a little fast. He was a little frenetic. I thought he moved his feet a little too much when he didn't need to. And sometimes that results in either just throwing too quickly or creating your own pressure. Now, he didn't do that on every play, obviously. But I just got the sense that, it was the opener and he was hyped up, and we know that he's a high-strung kid to begin with. And I just thought that his play reflected that to some degree. You hope that it's just, hey, the first time he started week 1 in the NFL. So you hope it was just a case of, the excitement of doing that and that he can settle down as the season goes on. I've been doing this a long time, Buck, and I'm not one who decides what a player or a team is after the first week of the season. I'm just telling you what the tape showed, and people can take that as they wish, but that doesn't mean that's going to happen every week.
So that is Greg Cosell talking about Will Levis and the progress. As Benjamin says on YouTube, measured take by Cosell. AZ says his footwork is terrible. Well, he's getting sped up, right? He's not comfortable out there. He's not comfortable in the offense. He's not comfortable in what he's seeing. And you saw him go too quickly through what he's doing. When he dirts the ball as often as he was in the first half, I think a lot of people would look at that and say, okay, well, he's living to play another down. That's a positive play. If he's going to get sacked, then you might as well dirt the ball, throw it at the running back's feet, take the incompletion, and live to play second or third down at that point. But in reality, he's just getting there too. He's getting ahead of himself, and he's going through it to the point where he's like, all right, bail, right? And I don't know how many incompletions he threw that way. There were plenty more in the first half because then he started to go hero ball in the second half, and it ended up blowing up. Blowing up in that spot. But with everything that the Titans are trying to put around him, they're hoping that he can get more comfortable as it progresses. Joseph says he can't read the defense. No, if we were talking about Malik, he can read the defense. Are you saying he can or he can't, Joseph? I'm confused. You'll have to pick one here because it appears you've said both. But Levis diagnosing defense is not the issue. If you've ever seen him in a film session, he can break down defenses just fine. It's the matter of, all right, it's more about him being comfortable in his own offense. And he's not comfortable in his own offense right now. So if you're not comfortable in your own offense and you're going up against a defense that's good, it may make you think that your quarterback is incapable of diagnosing defenses, but incapable of diagnosing defenses is Malik Willis, for example. So Malik Willis, in fact, I'm texting back and forth right now. If this was the radio show, Lucas and Jackson would find me, but I'm texting back and forth with Jen Latta. She's at ESPN, and she had gotten in touch with me about just giving some insight on Malik Willis, for example. So I'm gonna touch base with Jen after the primetime show today. And Malik, for example, Malik's first start, the Texans game that they won, right? They only threw one forward pass. It was incomplete. An entire second half of football. Malik Willis, Ben Jones called that entire game on offense. Malik Willis was not able to do it. He was calling the wrong plays off of his wristband there, and Ben and Derrick Henry were having to get people in the right spots to get them in a position. So that's not just Malik Willis not being able to diagnose the offense, but he's not able to get the play call in. Levis and the operation is not my concern. It's how much he gets sped up when he's dealing with pressure, or if he doesn't, or if he overthinks what he's seeing. So that's not inability to diagnose defense. He diagnoses defenses just fine. But I can understand why you might look at that and say, oh, he's not understanding what he's seeing. He's just throwing the ball away. There's some nuances to this, right? So with everything that they've got, going on right now, Levis's strengths are his traits. He's a very traitsy, toolsy quarterback. The question is, which is going to continue to be the question all year long, is how does he become the best version of Will Levis, refining those traits into legitimate skill? Because right now he's not a skilled player. He's a talented player, but he's not a skilled player. And that there's a big difference between talent and skill. Skill is something that you get better by refining, by repping, by seeing defenses over and over and over again, by playing multiple NFL starts. So I'm not gonna do the thing where I say, 10 starts, he's still a rookie. He doesn't get that excuse from me. He may get that excuse from some of you. I don't buy off on that. But what I will accept is that he is in a new offense. It's his first game in a new offense. He's never been a week one starter in the NFL that way. He was in a hostile environment, which is a buzzsaw in Chicago, and he was playing a solid defense that adjusted well to him in the second half and went out there and kicked his ass. So, can he improve from that? Sure, he can improve from that. We're going to find out whether he does or not in the coming weeks. All right, rising and falling. Whose stock rose? Whose stock fell this week in sports? Levis is an easy stock down, but perhaps you might find a stock up candidate as well across the spectrum. We'll talk about it together right after I remind you that the Primetime program is made possible by TrueMav Fitness in the Gulch. Your first workout is free at TrueMavFitness.com. No workout ever recycled or repeated. TrueMav Fitness is the best workout in Middle Tennessee, whether it's personal training, group fitness classes, or a membership for you to work out as you please. Go to TrueMavFitness.com for more information. All right, so whose stock rose, whose stock fell? The easy one is Levis stock down. But somebody who's going to be a guest on the radio show tomorrow, I thought, redeemed himself quite well. Not T'Vondre Sweat, who we will have on later in the season, but Ernest Jones IV, who got a couple of snaps, who you'll see his snap count increase this week. But he did a couple of nice things in the pressure looks that the Titans had on Sunday that were absolutely giving Caleb Williams fits. So there he is. He's number 53, running over the top of the center to pressure Caleb Williams in the red zone and disrupt what would have been a easy Keenan Allen touchdown when you see this angle that Chase Daniel of Fox Sports broke down.
All right, just digging into Caleb Williams' game right now on play 24, as you can see. That little knife route concept right here by Keenan Allen, go up 5 yards, go to the end zone, and then you're going to have a little sit route. They're going to end up being cover 0, all right? So Caleb Williams has a little bit of time, but specifically, I want you to look at Ernest Jones right here in the picture. I'm going to play it right here, and I just want you to watch how he completely disrupts the timing and the anticipation of Caleb Williams, okay? First of all, Keenan Allen, okay, right there. He's open, all right? But your center's on your butt, Ernest Jones running over and getting a tip. This play is unbelievable. Let's see it from the back view right here. All right, you motion Keenan Allen over, like the concept, 53 right there, one-on-one. Never a good thing when the weight is in the back of your heels. Caleb Williams knows that he has Keenan Allen right here, but got run over. Not all of it's on the quarterback. Luckily, this wasn't picked off.
So that is Chase Daniel of Fox Sports breaking down that simulated pressure in the Titans defense with Ernest Jones, who will be on the radio show tomorrow at 11:35, I believe, is when he's expected to join. Jack Ripper says our defense is the 85 Bears. You're good. You're probably going to be good. But no, beating a rookie quarterback that was making his first NFL start does not make you the 85 Bears. It makes you solid. And it's good. It's better to see that than not. If they had gotten diced up by Caleb Williams in his first NFL start, then we would have been talking about much bigger problems than Will Levis in his decision making. But yeah, let's give them a few more weeks before we declare them any kind of special. I do think that they have the ability to, but beating Caleb Williams is not going to indicate that this is the 85 Bears. Why didn't Ernest Jones get more playing time? Because he doesn't know the whole defense. That's as simple as that. You're not going to throw him out there on plays that he doesn't know. He's got here a couple of weeks ago, and you'll see him continue to ramp up. And then, by the bye week, I would expect him to be the full-time starter without question. And you can get, finally, Jack Gibbons off the field the way that many of you have been preying on his downfall for years and years. Jack Ripper says, number one defense, 85 Bears. Get over it, bud. Okay, well, yeah. If you're not winning a Super Bowl in week one, and in fact, your number one defense, what did it do for you? It didn't win you the football game. It kept you in the football game. But your defense isn't the most important thing. Defense matters, but I've seen plenty of good defenses be squandered by Marcus Mariota in years past, and Will Levis has to make sure that on Sunday he does not squander another great performance by that Titans defense, because they were good on Sunday. But great, we'll see how they look against Aaron Rodgers before you declare them any kind of good or great at this point. All right, it's going to do it for us tonight. Radio show tomorrow, Ernest Jones on the show. I will also have news and notes from Titans practice for us to dive into. Have a great rest of your evening, and I'll talk to you tomorrow morning at 10 a.m. on 104.5 The Zone.
Go home! Go home! Go home! You're embarrassing Nashville! Go home!